job-wise after graduation? Okay, not as many hands went up. So what I'm hopeful about is that you might have some opportunity to gain some more confidence in who you are and the plans that the Lord has for you through this process. Because we all have questions about who we are and where we're going and what the Lord has planned for us. We all want to kind of know all the answers. How many of you are planners? Yeah, so when we don't have like the answer and we don't know the next step in the plan, sometimes that's a little difficult for us to deal with because we like to know and we like to plan. And so when you're going out and you're going to be talking to corporations, you're going to want to present your best foot. You want to get the job. You're competing with lots of other people for one position, and they all look good. They're a little bit different, but they're all going to bring something to the table, and so you want to know what is going to make you stand out among everyone else. Why should they choose you? Organizations are looking for employees who want to be fully engaged in the process and the mission of their organization. And they want you to be engaged because it increases your productivity within their organization, which helps drive organizational outcomes and profitability. And when you feel successful at doing that, it ties right back into your level of engagement. And so it's this cyclical action that comes about. In employee engagement, there's 6 different dimensions to it. Your work satisfaction, your relationships, your own well-being as an employee, your value proposition. In other words, what are you bringing to the table? What value are you yourself bringing to the table? Your professional growth, professionally, on your personal growth and your leadership and culture and your work satisfaction. And a lot of times what they found is that work satisfaction is driven by who we are and our personality. So for instance, you can have the same job and 5 different people performing the same job. Some of them are going to be delighted that they're in that role, and some of them not so much. They're not going to be happy doing that task because maybe they just needed a job and took a job, but it's not really a job in which they find any fulfillment, nor which they're really adding value to the organization. Therefore, it's not fulfilling. So their productivity is going down, which overall is going to affect morale within a department and within a team, as well as the organization overall. And so as you are looking for a job or you're evaluating the one that you probably have checklists. I'm sure you got them in Meet the Firms, you've read about them in books, about things that you want to look for in organizations, because the reality is they have a checklist that they're looking for you and the employee that they're going to hire. And the reality is you should have a checklist too, so that you are working for an organization and you're profiling organizations that kind of mirror what your values are. They're looking for someone who hopefully mirrors theirs, although they're not always looking for that. Sometimes they just want to hire a person because they need a warm body to fill the spot. But ideally, organizations and employees are both looking for a mirroring effect so that you can have the same values, so that we can all know that we're going to the same destination because we have the same mission. And what happens is you have employee engagement is then driving your performance, drives results, but it's all driven down here by your preference as in who you are and how God created you to be. And so when you take the organization and the job and you, it creates this element called job fit. And a lot of times your success or failure as an individual is going to depend upon how well that job fit is. It's going to depend upon, is that organization someone that you really want to work for or not? Now, it doesn't mean you won't be successful in the position, but you might be unfulfilled. So for example, before I came to work here at Southern, I was a VP of marketing for SunTrust Bank. And I love my job. I was very successful at it. But I wasn't fulfilled inside because I really had a passion to do ministry and to minister to others. And so although my corporate career was very successful, inside I really wasn't fulfilled. So you might say then that my job fit wasn't ideal because I was not fulfilled in that role. Does that make sense? So looking at who you are, how it fits into the organization, their values, their mission, and who you are and who God created you to uniquely be, all ties into your personal success. So when organizations are looking at you, and I can look around all of you here in the classroom, I can tell you that your personal success factors, and many of you might have seen this slide before, is based on what you know, what you've done, and what you can do. And all these three elements are on your resume. And they could be identical for each person in this entire room. Those three things. Because you could all have done the same job, you could know the same facts and figures, you could have performed the same functions and duties in any role. So the really only unique thing that you bring to the table possibly is who you are. Who you are. Who did God create you to be? And when we go back to the Bible, what we find is that God created all of us unique with spiritual gifts. Have any of you taken a spiritual gifts inventory before? Raise your hand. I see 1, 2, 3. So do you remember what your spiritual gifts were? Anyone? Shout it out. Discernment. Okay, what else? Anyone? Administration. Okay, do you see how diverse those two gifts are? So we all have spiritual gifts, and if you're ever interested, I can send you a link to take a really good one that you can find online that is actually free. But God created us all with different gifts. Different colors, different packages, all wrapped up, and of course when they are unwrapped, they look like the things that we talked about: administration, discernment, showing mercy to people, having the gift of prophecy or evangelism or hospitality. I mean, God created us so that we could uniquely minister to the body of Christ. And so that there wasn't one set of gifts, because then lots of things in the church might not get done if we were all the same. And wouldn't that be so boring if there were no diversity of gifts? And so he created us to be individual contributors to the body of Christ, i.e. the church. And with those same unique spiritual gifts, he also gave us all talents. Now, what do we know about talents from the Bible? Anybody remember the story of the talents? Yes. Can you tell me about it? He expects us to invest. So what happens when we invest the talents? They multiply. So the person who went and buried the talents, is that what they were supposed to do? No, they were supposed to invest them. So within the realm of spiritual gifts and talents, it means that we're supposed to exercise them on behalf of who God created us to be and the purpose that he gave us in life. So right now, in your position, you may have an ultimate goal that you want to achieve professionally. And it might be, I want to be, and it might be highly specific, and it might not be. And it's okay if it's not. From this point forward in your life, you're going to take lots of journeys. My journey was not, I'm going to major in business, I'm going to be in marketing, I'm going to be a VP for SunTrust Bank. That's not how it happened for me. First, I wanted to be an education major, then I wanted to be a psychology major, and then I decided I wanted to get my PhD in psychology. But then I got very interested in criminal law. And so I began pursuing political science as a pre-law degree. I sat for my LSAT. I'm getting ready to go to law school. And I worked full-time. I put myself through school at night. And so I got myself a job working at a law firm because I figured that would give me connections in the field and the industry that I wanted to go into. It would give me access to resources that maybe other students wouldn't have if I was already employed in the field. And it would help me network and meet people and position me well for when I graduated from law school. Well, what I decided was after working for those attorneys, I didn't want to be one. And so during that time, I had become really adept at technology. And so I began actually doing trainings within the legal industry on different computer software programs. Then I ended up working for the federal government. And then I came to Chattanooga. And all of this crazy background experience, when I was still wanting to do law school, it was because I wanted to get a JD and a PhD so that I could practice forensic law and work for the FBI, right? Because I just thought that would be fabulous to work in the field of criminal law. And the Lord just had so many different plans for me than I could ever expect. And I think he does for you as well. And so what I learned as I went through this journey with God was that each of these things that he placed me in were stepping stones and building blocks to what he would have me do later. So of all of the diverse things that I've done up until today, this moment, I can say that there's something in each one of them that helped prepare me for the next role he would have me do. And so it's all kind of an act of preparation because, again, we're all different. He made us all to be uniquely His and uniquely equipped for the mission and the purpose that He has called us to have. And so going back to being that one that stands out in the crowd amongst all the others, and to making sure that you're looking for an organization that stands out among all the others, it's what you know, what you can do, what you've done, who you are, and this kind of ties into this is your performance area. How well have you performed or will you perform in these given areas of a job? The who you are is what ties into personality, and that is called your preference. So you might bring the same thing to the table on all of those other three, but who you are uniquely, your personality, your preferences for how things get done, how you do them, who you do them with, the way in which you accomplish things is all uniquely you. And that is what your big selling point is going to be, is who you are. So you've heard of nature versus nurture. Does anyone know the statistics between nature and nurture? Anybody want to venture to guess? So nature is about 60% of who we are, and nurture is about the other 40% of who we are. So when you look at this diversity, nature again, God creating us to be uniquely contributors to the body of Christ and unique contributors to the professional field in which we enter into. Because he's really over all of it. He's not just about the church. He's preparing you for a specific role. Whether you're going to be like me and be a corporate missionary, that's kind of how I decided I reconciled that with myself. I was a corporate missionary.